Studio. It's our pleasure to welcome now Leah Long, Mississippi and Louisiana Director for the National Federation of Independent Small Business. Hey, Leah, good to see you again.
Hey, good. Thanks for having me on. It's been a hot minute, I think.
I think it has as well. So, here in the state of Mississippi, let's talk about that first. Any particular legislation that you're keeping an eye on that your members are interested in?
Of course, I think the biggest thing right now is tax reform package. We're kind of just monitoring it right now. Obviously, we always support lowering the personal income tax rate because most small businesses, they end up, they pay that way. Their taxes pass through entities, LLCs. So, to keep competitive in the South, which obviously I do Louisiana too. And so we just had big tax reform there. I think now
Yeah.
is the time to do it in Mississippi. But for us, the devils are in the details. I know the House package is very different from the Senate package. So whatever's presented now, I think we're a little bit a ways away from what the final package is going to look like.
Yeah, we've got, of course, two different competitive measures, one from the House, one from the Senate. They're somewhat different. The Senate's bill, as you know, stops short of full elimination of the income tax, but it does reduce it rather substantially. It would be ultimately 25% from where it's headed next year to 4%. It would take it down to 2.99, roughly a 25% decrease. So that's good news there. Anything else in particular that you're taking a look at in Mississippi? What about school choice? Do your members have any concerns about that? Do they get involved in that?
We actually don't get involved in that. We've balloted our members before, and that's just kind of, obviously school choice is very important, but that's kind of something we kind of stay out of. And, if it ever becomes a thing where it does directly affect industry, small business, we definitely will get involved in that. But right now we've stayed out of it. But our kind of big thing right now is workforce development. And there's also a bill, and we kind of sent out an action alert on to kind of let people know it's the retailer tax fairness bill. It's House Bill 879. And so we talked about swipe fees, I think, on here probably a year ago. Small businesses pay so much in credit card processing fees. Sometimes it's more than the rent that they pay in their building. So there's a bill filed right now that kind of adds to relief for some of the costs in the swipe processing fees. And so that's one thing I think a lot of people don't understand, that, 2-3% that you end up paying is a big deal at the end of the month. There's some, like I said, some businesses end up paying $30,000-$40,000 in swipe fees every month.
Yeah. Yeah, I spoke to the individual who heads the Petroleum Marketers Association here in the state of Mississippi, Philip Chambly. I'm not sure if you know Philip or not. Yeah. He and I serve on the Mississippi Lottery Corporation board together. I ran into him in the hall yesterday. He was talking about this. He said some of his members pay $100,000, $150,000 a year in swipe fees.
Yeah, definitely. It's crazy. And, it's one of those things, vendors comp, I think we've kind of had the conversation with Speaker White too about vendors comp. You have to collect money for the government, every month. And so you can't do that for free. It's very unfair to allow that to happen for a business owner. So it's one of those things that we would love to see this bill passed. I would love to see vendors comp increased. You got to give those small businesses something for doing their job of collecting the money for the government.
Yeah, absolutely. What about the federal level? Leah, what are you tracking up there? Of course, taxes again, huh?
Taxes. And I know we've talked about it before, the Main Street Tax Act. That's our big push right now. It's set to expire in 2025. So if that deduction does expire, you're looking at a 20% increase right there in taxes. So that's kind of our biggest thing. Of course, during the previous administration, there was a lot of mandates put on business owners, beneficial ownership. We've been dealing with that in the court system. So we're kind of monitoring that, and you're just kind of looking hopeful for the next 4 years. We kind of talk about quality and, where our small businesses are. They're still excited to see what happens the next 4 years, but we're still facing the same things: labor shortages, workforce development. I know there's a bill, I don't know if you've heard much about it in Mississippi. I think there's a bill for tuition-free community colleges. I know that's kind of getting some traction a little bit. And, if it will help the workforce, we definitely need that. We need more skilled workers.
Yeah, and both Mississippi and Louisiana have some huge data center projects coming their way, which, of course, is going to require a whole bunch of skilled workers. And I think we have a good shot in our two states of really becoming more of a technology hub. And that's good news, but we've got to get our workforce ready.
Definitely. I always, of course, I love living in the South. So I tell everybody we should open businesses here,
Yeah.
everyone needs to come here. And so I think that's one thing. If we do develop a better workforce environment and a skill set of employees, that I think we'll see more companies and more jobs happening here. Even,
Yeah.
you think about small business being able to have more workers and that qualified, they can, reinvest in their businesses and even open up more. So, we always talk about small business, the fact that, you play many different roles in a small business. You're not just one job. So if we could have people like that, that would be good.
Leah, what about retail sales across the state, or just sales in general? Of course, you've got members who are more than just retailers. But just looking at sales tax collections here in Mississippi, fairly level, really no major change one way or another. How about in Louisiana, and what's the outlook?
Yeah, they're pretty level right now. You're coming off, they say the first of the year is very hard for business owners because you're coming off the holidays. So,
Yeah.
they're pretty level, pretty steady right now. So, optimism for the small business, everything's okay. They're a little bit better than they were, 2 years ago. But I think you saw the December and the last Q4, the optimism was very high because they were excited to see what the next administration looks like. So we're kind of still on that path. We're still dealing with a few labor issues, but it's better than it was 2 years ago. So I like to tell people it's not going to change overnight, but we can hope it continues to get better.
Oh, yeah. And it's anecdotal, but yesterday I talked to two small business owners who are in the type of business that sees the Valentine's season spur their sales, and both reported very brisk sales, that better than last year, as a matter of fact. Is there kind of an air of optimism? Because consumer sentiment has been somewhat down the last few months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it has been. I think it's just people are getting back to normal. And, I think the election took a lot of, mental capacity of the people. And, with the fact that we could be doing tax reform in Mississippi, those small businesses are excited. We're
Yeah.
having big changes coming on, not only in the federal level, but to the state level, that I think people are looking forward to. Like I said,
Right.
we're not sure what this tax package will happen, which one will come out of it, but we're hoping something's got to come out of it. Now is the time to do it. And I think business owners understand that too from their perspective.
Yeah. Has there been kind of some improved optimism in their outlook just as a result of having a president that's more pro-business and looking to shred many of the regulations that are so costly to the business community?
Yeah, definitely. They have been optimistic. The fact that this administration is interested in not being, basically not putting their thumb on businesses and letting them operate. And I think that's a
Yeah.
big thing. Those mandates are hard to keep up with, especially if you're a small business owner and you don't know the constant changes. I mean, we talked about, there was a contracting one. I think you and I talked about it last year. It went from a 3-point to the 5-point. Well, you're gonna have to sit there and go through. Luckily, that didn't work out. But it's those things that make it. We don't want to make it harder to own and operate a business in Mississippi or in America. So I
Yeah.
think with this administration, they're going to try to make it easier, and that's definitely adding to the optimism.
Healthcare expense, the cost of the employer share of their employees' health insurance. All the analysts in that industry are predicting a fairly sharp increase in that. Are your members talking about that?
Yeah, insurance is a big thing for our members. It adds to the cost of doing business, and especially being a small business owner, you want to offer a good compensation package. You want to offer health insurance, and if the premiums go up, it drives the cost, and it eats at your bottom line. It affects how much you can pay your employees. It affects how much you make at the end of the day. So that's one thing that we're definitely dealing with. And I think it's not even just it's a Louisiana, Mississippi thing. Because Louisiana, we always talk about insurance down here. So Mississippi thing, it's not just Mississippi. I think it's just in general right now. Insurance is
national.
out of control. National issue.
Yeah.
So
The
it
state of
adds
Mississippi.
to it.
Yeah, the state of Mississippi, and I don't know much about the state of Louisiana, but our finances are in pretty good shape, but there's a lot of concerns about some additional spending that may result from the federal government cutting its amount of money that it allocates down to the states. Is that being talked about in Louisiana as well?
A little bit. I like to say Mississippi is pretty more. It's more financially secure. I think.
Okay.
Something I've loved to see the legislature and the government do in Mississippi is they have cut back their spending. They have
Yeah.
shrunk government, and that's important, especially right now. Tax reform. I mean, if we're gonna do taxes, we need to shrink government too. So that's been kind of talked about in general. And, it's one of those things I think everyone's talking about it. The federal government is not a bailout, and, your state government's also not a bailout. So at some point, you've got to find the middle there. And if that means, they're having to make up money somewhere else, they're going to have to do it. But if you do that, you need to think about the people in your state too.
No doubt. Leah Long, Mississippi and Louisiana Director for the National Federation of Independent Small Business, has been our guest. Thanks for coming on, Leah. Look forward to talking to you again soon. Yep, appreciate it.
Yes,
we're coming right back, folks. We're coming right back with Jay Lake, the owner of Carter Jewelers. Stay with us.